Alright, 5 things it did right, 5 things it did wrong. This is how I review video games. It's how you like it, and you voted for this game. You voted for Last of Us, so I'm washing my hands clean of this one. I'm going to do my best to do this game justice because honestly, I loved it. I can't believe I'm saying that. And you're going to say, well, why can you not believe you're saying that? It's such a great game. The first time I played through this game, I didn't really like it that much. I thought it was okay. And while I'll still get into some stuff in the 5 things it did wrong, with a lot of caveats, because I don't even think this game did that much wrong, this game did so much right. I'm really impressed. Honestly, I'm very impressed by it, and I just want to jump into it and the things I loved about this game. I'm glad you voted for it, so let's tackle this one. The first thing I love about this game is the characterization of pretty much everybody. Now, Joel and Ellie are obviously the key players in this one. They matter the most, and they're the most interesting. And I gotta say, I love both of them pretty much equally. It makes me really excited about the sequel to this game already.
No. No, no, no.
What happens now?
What are you doing, Tess?
Maybe they had a map or something to tell us where they were going.
How far are we gonna take
As
this?
far as it needs to go. Where was this lab of theirs?
Oh, she never said. She only mentioned that it was someplace out west.
What are we doing here? I know that you are smarter than this.
Really? Guess what? We're shitty people, Joel. It's been that way for a long time.
No, we are survivors.
This is our chance.
It is over, Tess!
Joel feels really human. He feels like a broken character who really has been through a lot of trauma in his life, and Ellie feels very young and naive, but really sad in a lot of ways. She's someone trying to find her place in the world, someone trying to belong, and while I'm going to cover some story stuff in this, I'm going to avoid the ending, just because, you know, maybe watching this will make you want to play it, but I think a lot of other things are fair game. I will say that Ellie is a character who seems like she wants to belong to someone else as much as she wants to have a sense of belonging in the world. I mean, you know, she wants to seek out relationships and friendships, and she asks questions like about not just survival, but like the world around her, like, oh, you know, will there be anybody else my age at this camp, or like, you know, where are we gonna go, or what do you want to do? It's questions not just like the gruff Joel would ask of like, almost like, where's our next meal, and like, how are we gonna survive? Very different characters, but they play into each other so well, and I think Naughty Dog did a great job of writing them that way. It's pretty beautiful.
Tommy knows this area
Oh,
better
fuck
than...
that.
Well, I'm sorry. I trust him better than I trust myself.
Stop with the bullshit. What are you so afraid of? That I'm gonna end up like Sam? I can't get infected. I can take care of myself.
How many close calls have we had?
Well, we seem to be doing all right so far.
And now you'll be doing even better with Tommy.
The second thing I love about the game is the world in general. And this will play a little bit, though, too, into the second half of the review. So, you know, obviously this is part 1. We'll come back with part 2. But I have mostly good things to say about the world. It's very beautiful. I really think that they put a lot into it, from the fact that cities are now overgrown with brush and have been given a lot of personality from that, to just the characters living in them. I mean, it's not just characterization, but the character design really does play into that beautiful world, and there's something mesmerizing about a lot in this game. Now, you'll go outside and the light will shine in a specific way that'll catch your eye. You'll see grass coming out of cracks between the concrete. It's just got a lot of personality, and while honestly something like Fallout is sometimes compared to this in its idea, like in just the general idea of something happened to the world, it's pretty much the apocalypse and everything's gone to hell, this does have more personality in the way the world looks. Now, Fallout New Vegas and Fallout in general are my favorite games, probably of all time, up there with Knights of the Old Republic 2 and the Batman Arkham series, but this game really can't be matched in terms of ambiance and how it looks. and just the little details that go into world building as well, like Savage Starlight, how you find these comics throughout the world, and it's an original character created by Naughty Dog, how you'll see little things like made-up movie posters, and even Savage Starlight posters hiding around in plain sight and sometimes more hidden. There's a lot that went into this, into crafting a world that's beautiful, and it's odd that it can be so ugly and so pretty at the same time. I even think of something like the fungus, I believe it's cordyceps? It's hard for me to pronounce complicated words like that. And just how it looks in the world. I mean, on enemies, it's disgusting but beautiful. It's so hard to describe, and it's the same when you encounter it in the world itself. It reminds me a lot of the Flood from Halo, where it's like such a disaster to look at, and it's pretty gross, but there's something so captivating about it. And it's so hard to pinpoint what that is, but something about playing this game really made me feel like I was there. It is really pretty, and even though you're sort of on a track for the game, because it's extremely linear, you forget that. You forget that a lot of the times because of that world. I also think attention to detail is very important here too. Now, I talked a little bit about the character design. There's attention to detail in that, but the attention to detail in the gameplay is mesmerizing. I mean, the fact that weapons will sway, and I know some players found this obnoxious. I really like it because you're not playing as hardened military veterans. You're playing as normal people who have had to sort of become that without formal training. You know, Joel is an older guy. He's not a old man. He's not a boomer. But he is not a young man, and he's someone who's had to learn these things himself over the years. And even Ellie, it's a kid. I mean, she's a teenager who's really trying to step into this role of survival over time. And the fact that you'll aim down your sights and weapons will sway a little bit, it might seem like, oh, that's obnoxious. Like, and I would understand that in something like Call of Duty, like getting tired of that. But here, it really does add a layer to the world that makes you feel like, oh, I'm not Master Chief. I'm just a guy, and I'm kind of screwed. That is a fun feeling. People don't always want to be a super soldier. People don't always want to be Superman. Sometimes it's fun to just play as a guy. And there are lacking realism parts of this game for sure, but overall you forget that because of these details and the world itself. And the enemy design too. That's another thing. And I think it deserves it all on its own. I do think that it's really cool to see just normal enemies who look like they're sort of cobbled together out of whatever they found, whether that's fighting against hunters or fighting against other survivors that are maybe not the hunters themselves, which are sort of like the bandits of this world. So the Fallout bandits are essentially the hunters in a lot of ways. It's really awesome looking. The humans are total pieces of garbage, like the humans you go up against, but you can sort of listen to them, like with the enemies, and they will have conversations about things throughout the game that sort of do humanize them and make you forget that too. I mean, they will be total pieces of garbage. Like I said, like the hunters, they will just murder civilians. They'll just take them down completely. They'll go over and loot their corpses and leave.
Busy couple of days, huh?
Whatever, man. Damn, no food, old pair of shoes. We got nothing. Let's go.
Nothing we could have done.
I know. It's just... Oh, man.
They're bad people, but you'll also just hear them talking about something very nonchalantly, like people would do. I mean, you think about prison in real life. not all prisoners, but a lot of prisoners, especially that are there for violent crimes, are probably not the best of people. But, you know, they sit down in the cafeteria, they can still have a discussion. And I think the Snively Whiplash idea of a villain of like, yeah, I'm so evil, it's something that we've gotten very used to in fiction. And I would say the last decade has tried to move away from that a little bit. This game does an excellent job of moving away from that idea. You can see where villains are sympathetic and you can see where they're monsters, and you see where that meets, especially. And I also think that the design of the characters themselves in terms of the enemies is also so unique. I mean, the fungus mushroom like enemies, like especially the clickers, they look really cool and just it's so gross, but I love it. I love the way it looks. And the bloaters too. I do wish there was a little more effort that went into runners, but I also get that that's because, you know, they're early on in Cordyceps, the infection state. So it does make sense in game, but when you come across those enemies, it's mind-blowing. And every time you see them, like especially the infected, they are terrifying. I don't think there's a lot of games like this that really make you afraid of enemies. I can think of just a few, and one of them would be something like Silent Hill 2, where every enemy you encounter, it's like, oh, that's disgusting and gross. What could that mean? Ew, get away from me. But wow, that's unique. And you feel that same way about the clickers and the bloaters, especially in this game, I think. The final thing that I want to point out that's just beautiful and amazing about this game that it does a really good job on is the narrative. And I've brought that up in a few of my reviews for different games. I am not someone easily impressed by video game narrative. I think most of the time the video game narrative is there to sort of act as duct tape to keep a gameplay experience together. It's not really a focus at all, and why would it be? I mean, if you want a narrative focus, you go to movies, you go to books, right? I mean, that's just something that's widely accepted, but this game is a game that changed that. And I'm speaking as someone who doesn't love Uncharted, another Naughty Dog franchise. That's neither here nor there, but my point is that I'm not just a sucker for a Naughty Dog narrative. To me, there was something really special about this between just how the whole package came together, the characterization, you know, the attention to those details, how everything looks, how it plays in, how people are humanized, how there's relationships developing between characters and growth over time. Those things all play into the narrative in a way that really does keep you engrossed in the world and make you forget in a lot of ways that you're on that linear track.
So, is everything you were hoping for?
It's got its ups and downs, but you can't deny the view, though.
I'm going a little over my 5 here as well, but I will point out that this game does have a incredibly underrated multiplayer. It's something else. It really focuses on sound and sort of moving in a stealth-based manner. It reminded me a lot of a more down-to-earth version of something like the Splinter Cell Blacklist multiplayer or Conviction, how it was really like trying to sneak around all over the place, get behind enemies, take them out. And I really recommend trying the multiplayer on this game. I think a lot of people just played the story, they put it down and walked away, but the multiplayer is still being played today in 2020, which is kind of unreal if you think about it. I mean, there's still people enjoying this multiplayer, there's a lot to it, and it has a pretty unique progression system too, as you sort of build up a camp and bring in different people into this, find medicine. Narrative developments happen throughout the multiplayer that are sort of scenario based. It's weird, it's very bizarre, but in a good way. I mean, in a world of, you know, constantly the same multiplayer over and over again, it's great to see somebody putting effort into making theirs different. So guys, these are 5 things that I absolutely love about The Last of Us. I thought it did these things great. I think that most people will be on board with this video. Where it will get tricky for me is the 5 things I think Last of Us did wrong, or that I didn't love, or maybe I think you won't love. I'm sure there will be some backlash to that, who knows, but you know, hey, you asked for it. I'm going to cover it to the best of my ability and be absolutely honest in my review of it. So thank you so much for checking this out. I appreciate all of you. Much love from me, your boy, Jay. And I'll see you in the next one. Follow us on Reddit, Twitter, and we have a Patreon now. We'll put the links to these things down below. Check out the Discord. See you in the next one. Peace.